What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back with another video. This time we'll be ranking the top 10 playoff series of Michael Jordan's career. And for this top 10 list, I'm going to factor in everything, not just the raw stats. I'm going to look at the context of the series, the competition, how great he played in the clutch, and if he had any iconic moments. I'm going to take all that into account for this top 10 list. Now before I get into that list, if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so, and if you could like this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get into the video. So at number 10, we have the 1993 Eastern Conference Finals versus the New York Knicks. And at this point, the Bulls and Knicks had played in the playoffs for 3 straight years, and the rivalry had really taken form. And this year, New York won 60 games and had the best record in the Eastern Conference. And many wondered if this was the year the Knicks would finally break through and make the finals. And through the first 2 games of this series, it definitely looked like that, as New York went up 2-0. And over the next 4 games of this series, Jordan would average 32.5 points per game, 9 assists, 6.5 boards, on 41, 50, and 87 splits. Definitely some great numbers from Jordan, and in that 4-game stretch, he had 54 points in Game 4 and a 29-point triple-double in Game 6. And I wanted to highlight this series in particular because the Bulls, like I said, were down 0-2. And they were very much on the brink of losing that series. But in large part because of Jordan, the Bulls would win that series in 6 games and advance to the NBA Finals. And how Jordan played in those last 4 games is why I rank this series at the number 10 spot. Now at number 9, I have the 1996 Eastern Conference Finals versus the Orlando Magic. And at this time, Orlando and Chicago were becoming big-time rivals, as in '95, Shaq's Magic beat Jordan's Bulls in the second round. So there definitely was some bad blood and some added motivation for this series. And Jordan in this series averaged 29.5 points per game, 5.5 boards, 4.8 assists on 52, 63, and 75 splits. And the Bulls smacked Orlando 4-0 and made it back to the NBA Finals. And in the closeout Game 4 of the series, Jordan had 45 points on a ridiculous 70% shooting. And the stats definitely look great, but they could have been a lot better if this series was more competitive, as Chicago won this series by an average margin of 17 points. So Jordan came back from a bitter defeat in '95 and absolutely smacked the Magic in '96. And that's why I ranked this series at the number 9 spot. Now at number 8, I have the 1992 Eastern Conference Semifinals versus the New York Knicks. And like I said before, the Knicks and Bulls were big-time rivals in the early 90s, and this series was no different. As through the first 2 games, the series was tied at 2 games apiece, and Chicago had home court advantage in the series, so games 5 and 7 were in Chicago, and game 6 was in New York. And Jordan, over the last 3 games of this series, would average 33.3 points per game, 5 boards, 5 assists, on 45, 20, and 85 splits. And he had 37 points in a crucial Game 5, and 42 points in the crucial must-win Game 7 in Chicago. And whenever people talk about the Bulls today, they always seem like the Bulls had an easy path to the championship, and they never faced any adversity. If you go back and watch this Knicks series, you'll know that is far from the case, as this New York team pushed the Bulls to the brink, and if Jordan didn't play great those last 3 games, the Bulls would have been sent packing and had no chance to win the championship. So because of Jordan's great play in those crucial games, I rank this at the number 8 spot. Now looking ahead at number 7, I have the 1986 first round versus the Boston Celtics. And in this 86 season, Jordan only played 18 total games, and he actually pushed back into the Bulls organization tremendously to play in this playoff series. And the Bulls were heavily outmatched against the Celtics, one of the greatest teams of all time, that only lost 15 games that year. But despite that, Jordan was great in the first 2 games, having 49 points on 50% shooting in Game 1, and a playoff record 63 points on 53% shooting in Game 2. And keep in mind, this was Jordan's 2nd ever playoff series, and he was playing this great versus a dynasty Celtics team that had 5 Hall of Famers. And if you look at his average in this series, he averaged 43.7 points per game, 6.3 boards, 5.7 assists on 50, 100, and 87 splits. That is the 4th highest points per game average in a playoff series in NBA history. And I wanted to highlight this series for 2 reasons. Number 1, this was Jordan's coming out party to the NBA. Everyone already knew he was a great player, but this series put him on superstar status as one of the best players in the league. Also in Game 2, when Jordan had 63, Larry Bird would have this to say.
Incredible playoff performance. I've never seen it before, and I had never seen it after. That wasn't Michael Jordan out there. It was God disguised as Michael Jordan.
So because of all that, I rank this series at the number 7 spot. Now at number 6, I have another first round series, this time the 1989 first round series versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this Cavs team in this series was the heavy favorites. They won 57 games, and they were the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference compared to the Bulls, who were the 6th seed. And this is a best-of-5 series. After the first 2 games, it was tied up at 1 apiece. But Jordan in games 3 through 5 would play absolutely tremendous, averaging 46 points per game, 6.7 assists, 6.3 boards on 52, 67, and 77 splits. And we're looking at his scoring. He had 44 points in game 3, 50 points in game 4, and 44 points in game 5. And in that game 5 in Cleveland, he had the iconic game-winning shot over Craig Elo that sealed the series and gave the Bulls an upset victory. And that shot right there is not only an iconic play in NBA history, it's an iconic moment in sports history. And that's why I rank this series at the number 6 spot. Now getting to the top 5 at number 5, I have Jordan's 97 finals versus the Utah Jazz. And as always in the finals, Jordan was great, averaging 32.3 points per game, 7 boards, 6 assists, on 45, 32, and 76 splits. And in this series, Jordan had 3 standout moments. In game 1, he had the game-winning buzzer beater over Byron Russell, kind of a forgotten moment from this series, and a forgotten finals moment from Jordan. In game 5, he had the very memorable flu game, where he had 38 points, 7 boards and 5 assists, and the clutch 3-pointer to give the Bulls a victory. And in game 6, he would have 39 points, 11 boards, 4 assists, and a game-winning pass to Steve Kerr, who clinched the championship. And over those last 2 games, Jordan made numerous clutch time plays down the stretch. They really swung the momentum of that series. And if you look at how Jordan played in the fourth quarters as well as the clutch, he was tremendous, averaging 10.7 points per game in the fourth quarter on 49% shooting. And in the clutch, last 5 minutes, he averaged 5.8 points per game on 50% shooting. And Jordan being so great in crunch time was a huge reason the Bulls won this series in 6 games. That's why I put it at the number 5 spot. Now at number 4, we have Jordan's 98 finals, once again versus the Jazz. And in this series, Jordan stats-wise was not all-time great, but the overall context around this series is what makes it so great and so memorable. As Jordan in this series averaged 33.5 points per game, 4 boards, 2.3 assists on 42, 30, and 81 splits. And the big game you have to talk about is Game 6 in Utah, arguably the most iconic game in NBA history. Jordan had 45 points on 43% shooting, while shooting 80% from the line. And the last 40 seconds of this game were an absolute masterpiece. Jordan had the quick drive to the rim, the much forgotten steal on Karl Malone, and then the shot over Byron Russell. And that sequence right there was the perfect ending to a great career. And once again, if you look at Jordan's great play in the fourth quarter as well as the clutch, in this series, Jordan had 53 total fourth quarter points. The rest of the Bulls starters only had 45, and the Jazz starters in total had 59 points. So Jordan in the series was a one-man wrecking crew, carrying an old and run-down Bulls team across the finish line, winning their 6th championship. So taking all that into account, I rank this as the 4th best series of Jordan's career. Now getting into the top 3, at number 3, I have Jordan's 91 finals versus the Los Angeles Lakers. And this series was Jordan's first ever finals appearance versus the Los Angeles Lakers, who had Magic Johnson, Jordan's big-time rival at the time. And he definitely rose to the occasion in this series, averaging 31.2 points per game, 11.4 assists, 6.6 boards on 55, 50, and 84 splits. Definitely some all-time great numbers in his first ever finals appearance. And some key points in this series that really stand out is that Jordan in this series, like I said, averaged 11.4 assists. That is the most in NBA history for a non-point guard. Also in Game 2, he had the record for the most consecutive made shots at 13 that still stands to this day. And he is the only player in NBA history to average 30 points per game and 11 assists in a final series. And the one last note I have is that in Game 3, he had the clutch time pull-up jump shot over Vlade Divac that forced overtime and helped the Bulls avoid going down 2-1. And part of the reason Jordan passed so well in this series is because at the time the media was really pushing the Magic versus Jordan debates and saying Magic was the better player because he made his teammates better. And Jordan responded in this series by having a double-double in 4 out of the 5 games. The only game he was short was when he had 9 assists instead of 10. So for all those reasons, I put this finals performance at the number 3 spot. Now at number 2, I have Jordan's performance in the 92 finals versus the Portland Trailblazers. And much like 91, the media was looking for a Jordan rival, and this time the fake rival was Clyde Drexler. And in this series, Drexler would be absolutely torched as Jordan averaged 35.8 points per game, 6.5 assists, 4.8 boards on 52, 42, and 89 splits. And a couple of things I want to point out is that 35.8 average is the 7th highest average for a player in finals history. Also in Game 1, Jordan had 39 points, but in the first half had 35, the most ever in a half in finals history, and he had 6 3-pointers total in this game, which is the most of his career, and it produced the iconic shrug moment. Now getting back to the overall series, many people forget this was a very competitive series despite Jordan dominating, and it was tied at 2 games apiece, going back to Portland for Game 5. And in this Game 5, Jordan had 46 points on 60% shooting. And in the closeout Game 6 back in Chicago, he had 33 points, 4 assists, 4 boards on 54% shooting, and he had the game-clinching free throws. So all in all, a very, very competitive series, but Jordan dominated Drexler, and he dominated this Blazers team, having an all-time great scoring series. That's why I put it at the number 2 spot. Now, of the number 1 playoff series of Jordan's career, I have the 93 Finals versus the Phoenix Suns. And I'm sure many of you guys knew this, but Jordan's Bulls in this series did not have home court advantage, and the Suns actually won the most games in the NBA at 62. But despite a great Phoenix team, Jordan in this series would have his way, averaging 41 points per game, 8.5 boards, 6.3 assists on 50, 40, and 69 splits. And that 41 points per game average is the highest averaging final series in NBA history. And if you look at Jordan's highest scoring games in this series, he had 55, 44, 42, and 41. That is the most 40-point games in a final series in NBA history, and that 55 points is the second most points ever in a finals game in NBA history. And I think by and large this series is the apex of Michael Jordan. He dominated the Suns team, had an all-time great final series all around, shooting the ball from the field from 3, and he scored the ball at an all-time rate. And I don't think there's many who would argue that this series isn't the greatest series in finals history, and that's why I ranked it at the number 1 spot. So that right there was my top 10 list of the greatest playoff series of Michael Jordan's career. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.